The biggest secret of all time is now out of the bag. By CapnGriff. End, response to CapnGriff's biggest secret. By Hope for the World. May 8, 2016. Website: inteldinarchronicles.blogspot.com. Produced by Higher Self.
This subject can be made short, but it will be as long as it takes. It may take some reverse empathy on some readers' parts. Mostly, however, for those that can think rationally and put themselves in another's place, it may not be that difficult at all. Having said that, we need to breach a touchy subject. The subject is that not all men are created equal. Why? Because all that we see are not men, but only posing as such. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Let me assure you, I am no preacher, but some things stand out as much as an ad banner on the RMN homepage. This sentence above is one such red flag, and after all these centuries waiting for us to realize just what the hell it does mean. Time to grow up, folks. We are humans of flesh and blood. We were endowed with a very special ability that we are told exists nowhere else in the universe. Whether that is a true statement, we cannot possibly know here on Earth. But from the situation we find ourselves in on this planet, we might decide that perhaps there is something special about us. And this seems to be so. Yet, we cannot yet prove it. What I am referring to is the ability of the Homo sapiens sapien to be able to create things/reality with his/her own mind. Many will stop reading right there. That is fine with me, yet, even the ones that deny we have that ability will continue to create just the same, day in and day out. What they create, however, either good or bad, appears to them more as luck or divine intervention. My motive here is to show a reason to understand how this ability to create is a fact and not a fantasy. All we need do, for most of us, is to look at our foe. The ones the Bible verse above called principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this world are what I point to. These entities had a trump card when they came to this planet eons ago. They recognized that Homo sapiens, i.e., you and I, have an innate ability to create with their minds. Most of us do not think in a way that is given to evil. From the start of our arrival on this planet, some say our experience here, we had this ability to create anything and everything simply by thinking. Yet, if we were not just outright taught that and demonstrated by a being or our parents, we would have no example to follow, or even that we can create. If you will stipulate for the sake of argument that there could be or are other races that are more advanced than us, it will not take much brain power to deduce, such a race could trick us into believing we were lesser beings. In fact, they could trick us into creating a reality for them, that they could never achieve with brute force or technology. Some, in this day and age, would call this black magic. For argument's sake, let's stipulate that the dark side knows and we do not know that we can create with our minds. If they could cause misinformation to flow to us via speech, in the earliest of times, then written word, then printed word, then radio, then movies, then television, and whatever came next, the thinking of the human race could be influenced to an extent to create by those vehicles. The dark side postulates, that if we keep them in fear, they will see us as their saviors. When this happens, we can manipulate them to pay homage to our rulers by sending their young to fight wars and capture a nation's treasure for us. Or we can create a type of bondage that will cause them to toil untold hours creating things with their hands as well as their minds, for which they will pay taxes, or we can even outright take from them by overwhelming force, either in war or police action on their streets. Yes, it was a good plan. And the Homo sapiens sapien was manipulated into constant fear of the next war, the next economic collapse and the next plague. All the while we created these with our belief in them brought onto us by the media owned solely by our captors. Zika virus, ring any bells? It sounds like the saddest, most evil of movie plots. While it is in fact our current nightmare and reality. For those that can read or hear, let them hear. With those with eyes, let them see. Many, perhaps even a majority, have been able to see what I am saying is as close to facts as one can get without total proof. By inference alone, we have come to realize what TV programming really means. The hero/heroine of the movie would be wondering at this juncture, what can be done? Is there any way to save mankind? And of course many of us know there is, yet some in high places are good at heart but still fail to see the pattern. Fail to see the manipulation even in their own careers. Or worse, take money to continue to deceive their kind, Homo sapiens sapiens. For those of us that have awakened, there is something we can easily and naturally do. We must, as often as possible, visualize the world that we will have. By our thoughts, we must see the world returning to a status quo where a species such as ours creates at will all that is good. The reason we have yet to arrive there follows. We are not purposely seeing the world as we desire to see it. This goes for all that are not satisfied with how much money, status, desire to be left alone they have, being thwarted by intrusive government. The purpose of this article is single in thrust. We create. We reap what we create, whether induced by fear, greed, or religion or our own desires. We must make ourselves create by intention. Intend what you want: world peace, prosperity, the RV/GCR, more income for your family. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote the following words. It applies to all that was written above. A man is the whole encyclopedia of facts. A man is usually more careful of his money than he is of his principles. A man is what he thinks about all day long. So you see, we are what we think about all day long. That requires that we think with purpose all day long. We must adjust our thinking, thoughts, and our speech to only deliver what we are deliberately attempting to create. The time for bullshit talking is over. The chips are down and the brothers in heaven are waiting for us to get it right. Aren't you tired of things not changing to reflect the way most of us desire them to be? Change the way you think and your life, understand this applies to our entire reality, will change. Dr. Wayne Dyer. This article sounds like I am preaching. I am not. I am a messenger to those that have yet to realize there is a group on this planet taking advantage of our ability to create reality. What we see today is directly related to what we have thought in the past, and yes, even manipulated to think. If the RV/GCR is not happening quickly enough for you, change to thinking about the moment and how you will feel when the 800 number is released. If you want to see the new republic manifest for all of us whom have been waiting, then think about how you will feel when that is announced. Think, dream, visualize, and thus create what you need this instant and what you want in the short-term, long-term future. If you still don't see the connections to our being manipulated to think for the benefit of a race that is not human, then you are the ones that need this the most. The rest of us are off to experience an unbelievable glorious reality. There is an exponential power in numbers concentrating on a single purpose. What we will experience is all in our minds will manifest in reality. My best to everyone, even the lost. Also, thanks to Gary for inspiring this article from our correspondents. CapnGriff. End article. Begin response. First, let me ask you a question. Have you ever stood in the middle of a Home Depot or a Sam's Club and been in awe of the sheer volume of merchandise lining the shelves in that voluminous building? Have you ever thought about how many individual parts it takes to build a car? Have you ever bought a jar of strawberry jelly at the dollar store and wondered how they could still make a profit when the costs of 1. Growing the strawberries, 2. Harvesting the strawberries, 3. Processing the strawberries into jelly, 4. Bottling the jelly, 5. Distributing the jelly, and 6. Stocking the jelly on the shelves are factored in? In the developing world about 15 billion cigarettes are sold daily. Have you ever wondered where all the tobacco is grown? Where all the manufacturing plants are? Are you starting to get where I am going with this? Let me ask one more question. If Americans consume an average of 156 pounds of sugar annually per capita, totaling 54,600,000,000 pounds of sugar, and this is just in this country alone. Imagine the world figure. Where is all the sugar cane? For a fact, if everything in a Home Depot, or in an Albertsons grocery store, or every part it takes to assemble a vehicle was actually grown, produced, or manufactured, there would be zero unemployment in this country, or in the entire world. For a fact, highly sophisticated replicator technology has been around for a very long time. At giant replicator facilities located throughout the world, they can set a whole pallet of goods and merchandise under a replicator and endlessly churn out exact copies of that pallet of goods. And what does this highly sophisticated replicator technology look like? A Homo sapiens sapien. To bring this point home, if you are familiar with the Hunger Games, please know that IRL the Cabal's depopulation plan was tied to the fact that the vast majority of the food we eat is replicated, and how easy would it be to simply stop the production process and let the useless eaters die of starvation. So, I'd like to repeat CapnGriff's urgent appeal to please recognize how you are being co-opted by sources far less equal to you. We're in the final countdown for our blessing to manifest. Let's all do this together, shall we? If you want to see the new republic manifest for all of us whom have been waiting, then think about how you will feel when that is announced. Think, dream, visualize, and thus create what you need this instant and what you want in the short-term, long-term future. If you still don't see the connections to our being manipulated to think for the benefit of a race that is not human, then you are the ones that need this the most. The rest of us are off to experience an unbelievable glorious reality. There is an exponential power in numbers concentrating on a single purpose. What we will experience is all in our minds will manifest in reality.